Good afternoon. I am Cesar Piscana. My topic for today is Philippine aquaculture situation and outlook. Now, first of all, we have a disclaimer that because I might mention brands or companies or industry players, this does not mean that it's an investment or otherwise negative perspective of these companies or their products. Known as aquafarming, it's the controlled cultivation of aquatic organisms such as fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and algae. It involves freshwater, brackish water, as well as saltwater, doing this under controlled or semi-natural conditions. Now, why do we do aquaculture? Because at this point, our oceans and these natural resources are continuously being depleted, and humans need alternate sources for seafood to feed the plant's ever-growing population. Now, now to aquaculture performance and the volume and value. Now, observations on aqua and agriculture. Now, one of the reasons why aquaculture is attractive because of the following. On the parameters, we have relative high land use requirement, while aquaculture requires moderate, while compared to agriculture, which requires a heavy requirement for land use, and this competes with housing, manufacturing, and as well as other uses. Now, freshwater usage, aquaculture requires moderate freshwater, agriculture requires heavy freshwater requirement for irrigation and the watering plants. Now, this competes directly with human consumption and wash requirements. Now, for feed consumption, aquaculture essentially caters to herbivorous species, although we have carnivorous species, so it's essentially low compared to high for animals. Now, feed production requires both land and freshwater. Now, for investment, both require high investments, and most of these come from the private sector. And the risks from natural disasters and climate change impacts are high for both aquaculture and agriculture. High risk factors for production compared to processing or manufacturing. Now, for maintenance cost, aquaculture relatively has a high maintenance cost compared to agriculture, which is moderate. Now, for investment, these are the types of investment that you will need if you go into aquaculture. You need to purchase the land, develop the land, purchase equipment, and of course, provide for working capital. Now, these are some of the species which we call this farm. No, we have tilapia, carps, catfish, and for diadromous species, which means these species grow in both fresh and salt water. We have milkfish, and we have eels. And for the marine, we also have gropers. We have cicadids as well as snappers. And of course, we have also shrimps. Now, these are some of the laws regulating aquaculture. If you intend to go into aquaculture, of course, you can have this, you can just browse this and learn it more in detail once you go and search for these items. Now, aside from the laws and regulations, you also have standards. We have ASEAN Shrimp Gap for ASEAN. We have the PNS for the Philippines. We have PNS for fishery products for milkfish. We have PNS for tilapia products. And we also have third-party certifications, and these include aquaculture standards for ASC and Asian and ASIC, the ASIC Asian Seafood Improvement Collaborative Standard. And of course, we also have the best aquaculture practice for finfish and crustaceans. Now, for consumption and value of the industry. Now, these are the basic figures that we have. Bulk of our production is milkfish, followed by tilapia, followed by shrimp and prawns, and then seaweeds and others. Now, this is in terms of the contribution of aquaculture, fisheries in general, to the national economy. Fisheries only contributes 12%. It's just about equal to the contribution of poultry. So essentially, it's a small segment, but then it's a critical segment. For the last years, aquaculture has outclassed both municipal and commercial fisheries. Now, in quantity, it gave 55% as of 2019, and in volume, sorry, quality. In volume, it gave 42% for 2019. Now, in comparing 2019 with 2020, we have the values you see aquaculture at 40%, and then on the other side, we have aquaculture at 53%, so which means aquaculture is increasing. Now, these are our balance of trades. Of course, you can check this out with PSA. And when we dissect the contribution of aquaculture, you see here milkfish is 18%, tilapia is 11%, and 65% is for seaweeds. Now, seaweeds is a very large proportion, but its value is relatively smaller compared to the price of seaweed is comparatively lower than milkfish and or tilapia. Now, in 2019, we were number 8 in we were number 11, and I think as far as I know, we are still number 11, although in some species we have been uh, downclassed to a lower level. Now, aside from, of course, in order for us to produce aquaculture products, we also import some of the items as raw materials. This include milkfish fry, shrimp broodstock, feeds, ornamental fish, and milkfish for canning, small size shrimps for condiments, and large shrimp for seasonal demand. Now, in terms of expansion of volume import and export of key production harvest, this is what we have. Now, before, the paradigm was just to sell the fish, project harvest volumes, and sell at optimum prices, and get income from incidental harvest or by catch. In today's paradigm, we also need to consider the following. There's food safety, there's overall health benefits, and the activity should not be destructive to the environment, not abusive to the people that produce the food, and a new feature is the farmed animal welfare and protection. Now, these are site selection. If you wish to go and find and go into aquaculture, these are what you need to consider. But at this point, the better areas have already been taken. So essentially, it's site selection and criteria for aqua farms and site adaptations, which means if you get into aquaculture, it's more adapting your property or the areas that you have to the environmental challenges. Now, see, these are part of the systems. There's seaweed production, nurseries for milkfish, and we have the DCPA cages and the old style metal cages. And we have fish pens, small cages, and of course, fish ponds. Now, these are the types of ponds that we have, earthen ponds, and now we also have the liner ponds. Now, for mariculture, this is what we have. We're producing essentially bangus for mariculture, and this is how we do it. We get the fingerlings from the pond, transfer them to the cages, and produce them and grow them to marketable sizes. Now, instead of doing broad strokes on all the items that we need to discuss, I decided to focus on the 4 main commodities that we are doing. First one is bangus or milkfish. Now, as you see here, milkfish is the biggest item that we are producing. And in 2020, milkfish contributed 17% to total fisheries production. And the potential for milkfish culture to reduce poverty is closely linked to the ability to create jobs and self-employment in the communities. Now, this is what our milkfish industry looks like. If you notice, it's been going up. In 2017, it went up by 1.4% in brackish water ponds. And it's still growing actually, but not at the expected rates. Now, if you're selling your meat fish, this is what you will need to consider. Actually, if you look at this figure, this was done March 13. You see the price of meat fish or the 2 by 1 is 165 to 155 pesos. Now, on October 23, it's benchmark price for 2 by 1, which means 2 pesos to 1 kilo is 180 to 140. So it means it went up by 20 pesos from March of this year. So it's not really much of a difference. So at this point, we can say that milkfish is already stable. We are self sufficient in terms of milkfish, and not many people are considering to expand more into milkfish because the prices have not been that attractive. They have become stable, and because part of the reason is there are times of the year where we have an oversupply. Now proceeding to tilapia, tilapia is previously identified as a priority fish in aquaculture production, considered the second most farmed fish. It is an important food item, and it registered a production rate of 6.9% plus 2020. Now, the sufficiency ratio of tilapia is shown here. In 2013, it hit its peak, and it's now stable again at during from 2017 to 2019. So roughly, uh, the production has more or less remained the same. Again, the reason for this is that tilapia is relatively cheap compared to other commodities, and we are more or less self-sufficient in tilapia. Now, these are the regions that produce the fish. Bulk of this is produced in Region 3, which includes Pampanga, Bulacan, and the Tarlac areas. There's also Region 4A. Well, these are essentially areas which have large bodies of fresh water. Now, this is the tilapia production of the country. As you see, it is already tapering off. It went up in 2006, but then it stabilized at that point. And at this point, it's actually showed a dip in production. Now, these are the costings for tilapia. Well, if you want to go into the costings of tilapia, you can just ask me for questions later. Now, this is the price of tilapia from Big Par survey. So if you see the price of tilapia, it's essentially somewhere between 160 to 185 per kilo retail. I'm sorry, 120 to 115 kilo per retail. So it's not really that much. So this is not that attractive to many producers. Now for shrimp, in uh, in 2019 we were number 8, but today we are number 11. This is because our shrimp production has not improved, but essentially all our shrimp has been for local consumption with just a little amount for export. If you notice in these figures, we export shrimp on the right side, but we also import shrimps, which means we are importing the lower kind of shrimps, the smaller sizes, and we are exporting the larger sizes. Now, this is the price of banana. Now, in Mindanao, essentially, the price of banana is 195 per kilo. That's for Jensan. For Butuan, it's 235. That's because there are more buyers in Butuan and some processors. In the Visayas, the price is 210, while in Luzon, it's 280 and 250. Now, one of the reasons why the prices in Mindanao are cheaper is because you need to bring it to Manila. Now, the logistics cost is somewhere between 20 to 30 pesos if you do it locally, and 50 pesos if you bring it to Manila, all the way from, let's say, Jensan or Butuan. Now, one of the trends now for shrimp is to go back to the tiger prawn. Before and Deck has been talking to each other and are having the plan to revive tiger prawn production. And what we see is that this is what they call the Oplan Balik Supo, and this will be a good basis for improving shrimp production. Aside from that, we need to do greater intensification, which means higher stocking densities, more sophistication in our production system, better feeds, and personally, I think we will be more dependent or going into utilization of IT solutions, and all our stocks would be coming from SPF seed stock. This is how PL or Baname is being stocked. Now, going to seaweeds, after tilapia and shrimp, seaweeds is the next best thing to do because one, it's very cheap to do seaweeds, and the market is always present. Of course, the price is volatile. Now, these are the seaweed producers in the world, and the Philippines is number 4 at this point. So these are the countries that we compete with. Now, in 2016, we were third in seaweeds next to China, but then the year later, we became fourth because for some reason our production went down. Now, this is Philippine shrimp consumption for other uses aside from food because normally we do not eat seaweed all the time. It's only for some times of the year. Now, this is the figure of seaweed exports. We export for seaweeds for human consumption, for processing into keraginan, and we also essentially export for RDS or raw dried seaweed, and sometimes, occasionally, for fresh chilled seaweed. Now, these are the trends and new developments. Now, there's a renewed interest in and innovations for bivalves and mollusks, which are oysters and other related shellfish. There's the utilization of tidal flats. There's the intensification for current species such as milkfish, shrimp, tilapia, and carp. And new product forms for crab, which is the soft-shell crab. And then also there's a development of technology for species such as crayfish and lobsters. Growth in oyster and mangrove crab and white shrimp are expected to increase in the coming years as technology transfer by SIPDEC and DFAR or mangrove crab farming in key provinces such as Catanduanes, Quezon, Iloilo is in full swing. And also, there is already hatchery technology for oysters from 2 private companies. Now, for oysters and shellfish, these are the pros and cons. On the pro side, we have comparatively low investment. It's minimal feeding because oysters and shellfish are actually filter feeders. And the technology is developing. The latest is we have diploid oysters, which is an oyster which grows better but does not reproduce. It also has positive contribution to the water quality, and the market is expanding for both oyster meat as well as oyster meat for use as oyster sauce and condiments. On the cons side, one problem with oyster is the long gestation period, and it's prone to decisional hubs or red tides. And also, it has comparatively low prices. It has competition for space with other water use in many areas, and it's vulnerable to another competitive species of black mussel, which is an invasive species. If the black mussel comes in first on the steaks, the oysters will find it hard to grow. Now, these are some of the oyster production systems intended for oyster meat and oyster sauce production. On the left side, there's systems with fixed platforms, and on the right side are hatchery-produced single-spot oysters, both for oyster meat and oyster sauce production. These are what we call the hatchery-produced oyster. villages attached to microculture material. These are the oysters which you use for single spot oysters or gourmet oysters, which means they grow independent of, they are not attached to sessile materials or stakes or rubber, but they grow on the microculture. And these on the picture on the right, sizing and segregating single spot oysters. You do this to allow growth of the oysters within those cages. Now, for subshell crab production, subshell crab production, crabs usually are taken at a certain size, 100 grams to 150 grams, even up to 200 grams, and they are allowed to molt, and they grow by about 50% once they molt, and you sell them as it is. Soft-shell crabs can be cooked and prepared whole. So that's one of the advantages of soft-shell crabs, and they're very expensive. We are actually importing soft-shell crabs from other countries, but we can produce them locally. Now, for lobsters, these are the pros and cons. For the pros, it has high market value. It's about 3,000 pesos per kilo. There's a local and export demand. Natural feed is available. It's relatively cheap to grow. It's ideal for small-scale startups, and its technology is simple for grow-out. On the cons, well, it's a long grow-out period and the high cost of juveniles, and the scarcity of Veroli or the baby lobster due to smuggling. A lot of our baby lobsters are being taken by foreigners and grown in their countries. So I haven't checked lately for how this is being addressed, but about 2 years ago, this has been addressed by BIFAR to prevent smuggling of baby lobsters to other countries. Now, the latest, development in aquaculture is crayfish. Actually, you can order crayfish online for frozen, canned, or fresh, or frozen, canned, or prepared lobsters. And you can also order online live lobsters for the aquarium, for your aquarium. But lobsters are already getting to be popular, both as aquarium pets and as well as food items. So they are easy to produce because essentially they are freshwater species. Of course, they can tolerate others lower salinities up to 5, but most of them are grown in freshwater areas like Nueva Ecija and Bulacan. As we speak, I was told that they are priced higher than shrimp. Now, these are the pros of the Australian red claw. The pros is it's omnivorous, which means it eats a lot of things, plant and animal matter. Essentially thrives in freshwater. It's low maintenance, intolerant to high stocking densities. It can reach 4 to 40 grams in 6 months, and it's not aggressive. On the con side, it's vulnerable to shrimp diseases, meaning if it can be infected by diseases of shrimps. And then at this point, there's relatively scarce information on technology available in country. And the market, well, it's good right now, but we don't really know for how long. So the market is unstable. But a lot of people are going to this because of its simplicity. Now, for the threats and hazards, climate change is, of course, sea level rise and warming temperatures is a big threat. Unforeseen market movements and industry upheavals are also issues, as well as disease, as well as new and emerging diseases like TLB. TLB actually is tilapia lake virus. Of course, there's pest invasion and competitors, water quality degradation because a lot of our areas are being subjected to pollution from either industrial or urban settings. And of course, there's hubs or the hazardous algal blooms or red tides, and there's filtrage and type of stock or of feeds. And there's a safety consideration for farm people, especially those during storms or during peace and order issues. There's also the type of extreme weather events. Now, these are some of the issues that are affected by climate and weather concerns. One is you always need to build up your dikes because the water level is increasing. And to the right, weather as already being erratic, so it's either your water source is being turbid most of the time, and on the lower side, sometimes storms can cause your lines to be destroyed or disrupted, as shown in this picture. After one storm, these lines for seaweed became tangled and some of the stocks were lost. Now there's the monitoring of weather reports. Of course, we rely on Pag-asa, but also read the NOAA, JMA, and Zoom Earth reports so we get a balanced perspective on what to expect during weather disturbances. These are the prices of marine commodities. Of course, they change every day, so these prices are not static, no? They're volatile. And if you go online, these are the prices you will see. But again, it's not static. They change every day, so just be prepared for what you can see online. And these are the industry references that we have. So there are a lot of new information available as well as new authors writing on Philippine fisheries. And that's it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please provide them later. Thank you.